I think a lot of folks who are listening to this hear about regulation. They feel that there is some tension between the companies in the space and regulators, both in the United States and also internationally as well. I want to use kind of the tangible example of the Lend product that you all had, kind of ideated on. You wanted to create and launch. There is this now infamous Twitter thread that you put together and put out publicly, kind of calling attention to the fact that you didn't think you were going to be able to launch it, and maybe just walk us through kind of how this process works, and both I think from if you can, what you think Coinbase is kind of doing to move towards a solution, but also maybe from the regulator standpoint, are there things that you think like, yes, they're doing this and that's actually a good thing, it's a fair thing to be doing, and if there's anything that they're doing that you think could be improved or changed?
Yeah, sure. So the Lend product was kind of an interesting example for us. By the way, the Lend product is not really material to our revenue at this point or anything like that, but it's an interesting case because some of our competitors, great companies in crypto, by the way, have had a product like that out in the market for a couple of years. We've seen demand from our own customers to have it, and so we decided that we wanted to go out and put out a similar product. What was frustrating is that we proactively went to the SEC ahead of time. We've been telling them about our development of this product, and we felt like we had buy-in there. But as it approached our launch date, we suddenly saw a much different stance from them. And they came out and said, you can't, not only do we have concerns, do not launch this. And if you do, we'll be suing you. And they sent us a Wells notice, which is kind of like a preliminary document before you sue somebody. So the product never launched. But I was kind of frustrated by that because I felt like, the goal of the SEC is to protect consumers and then create a level playing field. So number one, how are they protecting consumers in this case? I think a lot of consumers demonstrably have wanted to earn higher yields on their savings accounts and things like that. They're not really getting those products from the existing financial services. So that was one open question. And then the second one was, how are they creating a level playing field? Because it seems like other companies have been able to do this, but Coinbase suddenly is not allowed to. Sometimes we're a more well-known company. We're a bigger company, and so we sort of get this scrutiny that other startups don't have. By the way, I kind of understand that. The SEC is just one organization. They don't have time to look at every startup, but they kind of can look at the big ones. So we were stuck in this kind of uncomfortable position where the SEC would not tell us why they thought it shouldn't be allowed. They were very closed-lipped about that. I'm not sure why. Maybe they didn't want to tip their hand in some kind of litigation or something, but it just didn't feel collaborative or being upfront at all. And they were creating this unlevel playing field in the process. So at the end of the day, we sort of talked to our lawyers about it, and they felt like, what is our case here? Like, should we go, we're being harmed. Should we proactively sue the SEC? Should we just enter litigation with them and try to create some kind of a legal precedent? But we felt like there's a lot of deference given to regulators in the court system. And we have, frankly, no desire to be engaged in drawn out litigation with any regulator, right? I consider that to be very much a last resort. We always want to be proactive and collaborative with people. And so we decided not to launch the product, essentially. We're going to wait and see what the SEC does in terms of the other products that are out there already in the market, where it's not a level playing field today. I think we want to also just focus our efforts on maybe even more important things happening in crypto, like the questions around which of these tokens are securities and how is DeFi going to be used. These are the things that I guess we really want to stand behind and sort of say, these are the benefits to the crypto community that we want to go make sure there's a good legal precedent for. But when I went to DC, I reached out to the SEC. I tried to get a meeting with them. They told me that they weren't meeting with any crypto companies. I was kind of surprised by that because there are so many different regulators out there. Every single one has been willing to meet with us, and every other branch of government, by the way. And the SEC was really the only regulator that I was not able to get a meeting with as the first crypto public company in the United States. They weren't willing to meet with me when I went to DC. So there's something kind of strange going on there. I wish that we would basically all just be able to pick up the phone and talk about this stuff. It doesn't need to be in a combative stance. And whenever I see something like that happening that I think is kind of inauthentic, and I tend to talk about it publicly. I want to put this stuff out in the ether so that the world can know about it and they can make up their own mind about how these things should play out in government.
So I want to ask kind of a couple of different perspectives from this specific situation, just because I think it's a good tangible example where people can understand both your perspective and also the regulators. As a publicly traded CEO, especially one that just came into the public markets, if you went and you talked to somebody in the legacy finance world, they would say, oh my God, that is nuts to do a public thread and talk about the SEC, et cetera. How do you think about risk reward in terms of having the conversation and kind of pushing forward to what I think, based from what I understand you've said publicly and also elsewhere, is really trying to work towards a solution? Like, how do you view that moving towards a solution? And did you evaluate any sort of risk with kind of being more public, maybe so than other people would?
Yeah. So, I mean, look, there's no right answer here. Okay. So I'm not going to come out and say that it's the right thing to do or it's the wrong thing to do. A lot of this stuff comes down to kind of gut at the end of the day. And the way I thought about it was, first of all, Twitter is a funny thing, because if I had gone on to CNBC or something like that and said the same thing, people would have probably thought like, oh, that was a healthy debate or dialogue. There's something about Twitter which, people, it's a very much like a West Coast and East Coast thing, right? So on the East Coast, the reaction to my tweet, I'd say, was more negative. People were like, wow, how could he do that? He should be going through appropriate channels and, Wall Street Journal or whatever. And people on the West Coast were like, that was the best thing I've seen, all year. And they were like, finally, somebody is willing to just speak the truth about what's going on behind the scenes and put it out there in the open, right? And so I think there's just a cultural difference that's happening. Look, I'm not naturally a combative person. I'm actually like kind of conflict avoidant, right? Like my default is to go build genuine relationships with people, just try to work on stuff. Like, even if we disagree, there's a way to make it win-win and just move forward. But if somebody is, if they're not going to meet with us to even have a conversation, which, by the way, my optimistic view is that we can change that. We still haven't gotten a meeting with the SEC for someone, high up there, Gensler, to talk to me personally. But my hope is that that's still on the table. And if I can't get that, then eventually I'm just going to go out and talk about it publicly so that people can know about it. I think it's a form of accountability, frankly. And that's like the way that this is trending in the future. It's going to be, companies are less going to be going through traditional channels, CNBC, Wall Street Journal, mainstream media, New York Times. They're going to be bypassing that and going direct to their community via modern tools, blogs, podcasts like this one, Twitter, and YouTube, and all the modern tools that are out there. So it's an interesting cultural moment where West Coast companies, I think, are starting to take a different view on this than the East Coast.
And when you look at it from the regulator perspective, it almost feels like, like you said, there's so much stuff going on. I definitely do not envy being a regulator right now in terms of trying to figure out not only what is in bounds or out of bounds, but also just like what to go focus on first. I went through the exercise recently and said to myself, if you're a regulator and you stack rank all the different things going on in this industry, like what do you even go look at first? It's hard to just do that exercise alone. And so, are there areas where you think that regulators and crypto companies, a lot of folks who run other companies or investors in the industry, can kind of meet in the middle? Like what is that middle ground where you think you're like, okay, this is the activities that we should go focus on that can actually push this forward, get to solutions on some of these issues, and ultimately, I think, find some balance between the kind of economic empowerment, the innovation, the job creation, all the things that we know to be positive, but also satisfy whatever the concerns are of whether it's regulators, politicians, et cetera.
Yeah, so I totally agree, by the way. I have a lot of empathy for regulators in this space because they have a very hard job. It's so new, it's changing so quickly. Frankly, I would have a very hard time getting out there and sort of publishing clear guidance on it. I think it's very difficult. But Coinbase has been thinking about, what we can do to help here. In fact, when I was in DC, one of the most common things people asked me was, can you help draft something, you and your lawyers help draft something that would be a proposal about how this industry could be regulated more efficiently, right? So that Coinbase doesn't have to have 50 plus regulators in just one country. And we don't have this kind of jump ball between the different federal agencies. So actually, we've been working on a draft proposal of a regulatory framework for the industry. We're going to be publishing that probably in the next 2 weeks or so. And it's meant to say not that we have all the answers, but it's a start to the conversation. And I think it could make sense to have one agency, or basically a division within one of the existing agencies, be the single point of regulation, a single federal regulator in the United States, that can help this industry get a little bit of clarity so that this industry can be built in the United States effectively. And the U.S. can kind of maintain its position as a financial hub and a leader in technology with appropriate regulation in place. So I think we basically all want to think the same thing. We want to help the industry grow, but have some reasonable regulation that's thoughtful. And I guess we want to try to be part of the solution here, not just engaging in antagonism. And so we're going to put out a proposal there, and I hope people are willing to come talk to us about it.
What's up, guys? Bang, bang. Thanks so much for watching the Best Business Show today. If we're going to be the best business show, we obviously need the best partner. That's why the exclusive sponsor of the Best Business Show is SoFi. They're an all-in-one platform that allows you to invest in all kinds of different assets, including stocks, ETFs, crypto, IPOs, and they even have an automated investing function, if that's your thing. So before we start getting after it again, make sure that you go download SoFi, you get an invest account, and when you make your first crypto trade, regardless of what you buy, they'll give you $10 in Bitcoin for free. It's that simple. Head on over to SoFi.com/pomp to get started today. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you come back and watch more of the Best Business Show tomorrow.